Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR, episode 250A. I'm your host, Terry Ryan Jr. If you hear a ticking in the background, I'm not sure you do, but the acoustics leave much to be desired in these rooms, to say the least. Anyway, the ticking is it's a toaster oven. And I'm having some trout tonight. Remind me of home. Things are going all right here, and better than all right. We're getting through season 5 with a little bit of adversity, but sense of accomplishment so far. Adversity being the weather. It's often the case on many shows I've done, but everybody's great to work with. We got an awesome family here, and that's it. You work together towards a common goal, right? Just like the great sport of hockey. And before I get there, I got to give a shout out to Gil Roy. And I'm saying this because you guys, a lot of the video requests come through, right? I got a new website up now, terryryan.ca. That's where you go order videos. Go through my Cameo and check out the merch and stuff too. First time I'm actually mentioning it. I'm going to drop it next week. But anyway, I promised that I would talk about an album here for our good buddy Gil. Thanks for listening, buddy. And thanks for watching Shoresy. So anyway, I'll tell you this now. So Gil played country and western music, francophone, country and western. Um, Drinking one of these weed drinks. Actually, until they sponsor me, I won't mention it. They're pretty deadly. 10 milligrams puts me in a good mood before supper, takes the edge off. And yeah, they're all right. Contrary to popular belief, I get hammered usually one day a week. I've talked about that with you guys. And yeah, that day is usually Friday. And the first couple are with my dad watching music. So anyway, talking about that music, I was going somewhere with that. So my dad, when I was right from the time of after 7, because he promised my mom he would only drink on Fridays. I remember when I was 7 years old, they were separated. He showed up at the door, knocked on it, said that to my mom because he was drinking a little bit too much, playing senior hockey and enjoying it a little bit too much. You know what I mean? And that can happen when you retire from pro. And he had just started teaching, which he always loved, but I'm sure there was a bit of a transition there, and he probably liked the dressing room a little bit more than the classroom at that point. With senior hockey practices, games, and hangouts come a lot of booze. And if you go every night, it's what they call an alcoholic. So anyway, mom kicked him out. He went to Toronto, and I went up with him. I went up to visit. I was 7 years old, got on the plane by myself. I remember that distinctly. I can't believe they let it happen. I was totally cool with it. I mean, I don't. Are you allowed to do that now? I mean, there was a stewardess that had escorted me on, but I remember they gave me the first class. Someone didn't show up, so they bumped me up there. I remember having a great time. But anyway, that's my fucking crutch. But anyway, I think I talked about that. Say it too much. But anyway, yeah, my dad went home and he said, "Fuck this, man." He showed up and he knocked on the door and he said, Gail, I'll only drink on Fridays the rest of my life. Basically, I mean, he probably worded it different. The rest of my life, it even sounds a little bit too eternal for a 20 what or a 32-year-old, I guess. Whatever it was, he promised her that, and true to form, man. Still this way. This is Dad's 73 now. Now, if you guys see him on Chicklets, right, and even there usually, but if we get in on a Wednesday and we're in Vegas, I mean, Mom looks the other way for that. He's proved it to her. You know what I mean? The point at the beginning was, man, you got to lay off the fucking sauce. You got a son here that's looks up to you. You got your fucking teacher going and smelling like booze. You got responsibilities. I'm not taking care of fucking everything. You're going to pull your weight too, right? And I don't really think he put up too much of a fight. I think she was just a wild addressing it. Kicked him out, and with the booze and came a lot of shit. I mean, I'm sure, flirting with women and, when I loved playing senior hockey, but if winning a senior hockey game becomes more important than teaching a bunch of students the next day. Now, I'm not saying it did as a rule. I believe every student that he taught that I spoke to enjoyed his classes, man. He had a real creative way of teaching. He taught through like sport. He taught French mainly at a homeroom, but he was a French teacher and would teach it through like, hockey and music stories. amongst other things. But he did teach other subjects and whatnot. But he was mainly a French teacher, and he really, really did enjoy it. But again, going through that transition, coming back, and already having a love. I won't say love. My grandfather Clem, his father was a real bona fide alcoholic. I don't know if Dad was, but because I know I'm not. Like, and I'm not. You might see me drinking, or I guess if the definition is habitual, because it's habitually Friday. But I don't know why we got here. But anyway, I'm telling you a nice story about my mom and dad. I guess I don't really need to defend or justify my position for anybody, but that's where it's at. Sometimes I feel it because I know there's kids that follow me as Ted Hitchcock, and I'll be at these events, and those, I guess there's exceptions for some of those. Some of them I'm drinking fake beer, which is fine, man. That's what a lot of people do. And I get it. A lot of these, you want to see a guy from Shoresy show up or me with the stories that I've got about, a lot of them include a night at the bar or whatever it is over the course of my life, right? But, so I get it. Now, I'm just not one to have two or three beer. I'm kind of getting used to that at some of these events, just to be kind of social. And like I said, sometimes I don't drink. Sometimes I get fucking tattooed. But if I'm at home and there's nothing on the go, and I'll generally drink on Friday, and that comes from my dad, and it's good as an athlete or whatever, or maybe it's not. Maybe you're an athlete going, you know what, that's too much. No, but that was always my. Even I come home in the summer, after hockey was different, but while I was training and playing, and I thought that was fine, like it absolutely fucking obliterated once a week, and I think it might have been, and I drank more in the season because it was part of the road trips and everything else, camaraderie and. So I probably drank more. But anyway, what the fuck am I talking about? Doesn't really matter. My dad, yeah. So it became, he'd look forward to his Fridays and playing music. And, we would always be a get together, usually senior hockey buddies. So it was me, my buddies, Jeremy Charles, Mike Smith, Paul Carey, Gary Clark, for the most part, guys like that. Jeremy Charles, always the chef. Look it up. Look up Jeremy Charles chef. Just Google that. And the story will be told. He came up to Montreal when I was playing there at 19. Like I said, is my best buddy growing up. And one thing led to another, and here we are. Chef Jeremy, world renowned. Anyway, Charles, yeah, we would be there, right? So the boys would let us like play the music at the parties, and girls. There was often, I'm not saying mom didn't have friends down, and my dad and mom didn't have other couples in once in a while, but the vast majority was him listening to his music on his own with my uncle Howard or Daryl, or it was a group of his buddies. So that was it, and they just said, basically, you can pick from this pile, which was the whole fucking wall, like over 1,000 right from day one. Now I wouldn't know how many, counting mine, and albums. Now I'm talking albums being, we had tapes, records, we had even had 45s, we had CDs. He ended up with that, but as far as vinyl, well over 1,000 if there was one. So and we'd go through, and back then, you'd play the music, and then you'd read the liner notes and everything that came with it, right? So getting back to our good buddy Gildor Roy, the French Canadian country musician, I figured I'd talk about one of my favorites. So that would be Patsy Cline. That Patsy Cline album. Sorry if the maid was knocking on my door there. Patsy Cline album is called Showcase. Okay, now I loved Patsy Cline, and I remember being like 6 or 7 years old because we would play all those records. And now, even before Dad, he wasn't drinking every night. That was probably happened, in the transition that he came home. When he played hockey, he took it very seriously. Like, the reasons that my mom kicked him out, I that if I was aware of anything, it was only for like a year or two, of late nights and whatever. But Dad was a very dedicated and a hockey player, and became teacher and coach and all of that. So I do have memories around music, man. I used to play the albums that were there all the time, like middle of the day. Fridays just happened to be the celebration of it, and when we really, really got into it, right, the deep cut Friday kind of thing. But so I would play, and I didn't realize she was dead. I mean, how would you, right? Unless, I mean, how the fuck would you know? I knew from Buddy Holly actually he was dead, because one of the albums is Buddy Holly Lives, and it talks in the liner notes about how he died, and his legacy and what he did for rockabilly and country, and blending that, and rock and roll and all of that, and songwriting. Not a lot of people wrote their own songs. Buddy Holly did for the most part, things like that. But I knew it as I knew he was deceased. I knew Richie Valens, same thing, right? Because the story was on the back of, and the movie La Bamba was about to come out, but it hadn't yet. I'm talking about 1982 or 1983 when I saw the movie Sweet Dreams, Patsy Cline. So anyway, spoiler alert: Patsy ends up dying. But anyway, everybody know. But anyway, Jesus, I got to really correct that. Everybody knows that. So, but it's a story. She didn't have an easy life, and she faced a lot of adversity. Absolutely, an angel of a singer. Her voice is angelic and one of the cornerstones of any music around that time. But in my mind, you got Taylor Swift now would be the obvious example. But my era, being when I graduated high school and shortly after, maybe Faith Hill. I'm talking about people that come, Shania for sure. But they kind of take country and they marry it with pop or rock or whatever you want to say. So I think Patsy Cline was one of the first to do that. And you've got to realize the movie show, music, the album Showcase came out in 1961. Okay, that's 3 years before the Beatles even landed. Just to give you context and time and space. And her album that came out before that was Beauty. Walking After Midnight. I forget the name of it, but it had Sweet Dreams. Maybe it was Sweet Dreams. It had some unreal songs, but 4 years had gone by and no one heard any Patsy Cline. And when there's no social media and you're waiting for new albums or whatever, that is an eternity. So people were waiting for this, and it was Showcase and fucking. I Fall to Pieces is on there. Crazy, which Willie Nelson wrote, which is fucking crazier, is that Willie Nelson is still touring and recording in his 90s. He wrote that song. Again, that was 1961, before the Beatles even got here. So, um, I mean, Elvis had just made it. It was in the late 50s. She predated most Elvis songs, like her hits. You got to think how long ago we're talking about, man. The 50s, right? TV's, we're just on the scene, man. Right? Like, and so for a woman to make it in the industry wasn't easy then. That's why I often say in another pod, I'll talk about Billie Holiday, a black woman who made it in the 30s. You know what I mean? Like, women were just given the right to vote. These are atrocities. I'm just talking historically. These are facts. Women were just given a right to vote in the 20s, the suffrage movement. And then, so I mean, that was new, right? So not everybody just went overnight and went, oh, women are equal. There was still bigots that, I mean, there still are today, but there were in the 30s that thought women shouldn't be on stage or anybody black. And Billie Holiday makes it, who also faced a lot of adversity. It's a great story. Check it out. Or great, tragic, but I don't want to give anything away. It's a fucking intriguing story. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, Patsy Cline Showcase, one of my favorite albums. I don't often talk about country and Western albums on here. I do. And getting back French Canadian, like when I heard Michel Pagliario, listen to that, Some Sing, Some Dance. What the Hell I Got. He's got a few hits. Oh, God. The big one is escaping me. Oh, terrible. Anyway, Some Sing, Some Dance is my favorite. But I used to think he was country till I really saw the albums and his videos growing up. But, so what is country really? I mean, the Eagles, a lot of people say it's country rock, whatever. Genres are hard to define, and they should be because music is music. Makes you feel a certain way. I always find those funny, those things that are categorized at the Grammys. Just too much categorization, it leads to an overabundance of generalization about opinions and assumptions of this music and what it's supposed to be. And it's not supposed to be anything. It's supposed to make you feel something. Not always good either. It's supposed to make you feel something. And if it doesn't, and you don't like the beat, and it doesn't make you feel something, move on to the next artist. Because everybody I've met likes some form of music. Anyway, that's my fucking favorite. That's actually not my favorite. It's my second favorite country album. My first is Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison. If you don't know what I'm talking about, educate yourself. Google what I just said, those words, and watch the movie Walk the Line. That's pretty good if you like Johnny Cash. You like the origins of country music. Now, of course, the king, daddy topper in country music is Hank Williams, and I'll get to that, who came before Patsy, well before. And I'll do that one on a Friday when there'll be a tear in my beer. Those who know. And last, Jesus, I got to say, Patsy Cline. Yeah, my other two favorites on there, Fooling Around and San Antonio Rose. But the Jordanaires played on that. The Jordanaires played backup. The Jordanaires were Elvis's backup band. He played for Ricky Nelson, Gordon Lightfoot, Dolly Parton, Sawyer Brown into the 90s. The Jordanaires started off as this gospel backup band, but they're great backup singers. Like I said, they're doing a lot of the Elvis hits that you hear. You like the backup, that's the Jordanaires. So the Jordanaires are with Patsy Cline on this particular album. I don't think the other ones. So anyway, as a side note, an end note to my recommendation. There you go, Patsy Cline Showcase. Okay, some people wanted to know about the Combine. I guess because the NFL are might be going through that now, or there must be some relevance to it because I got 3 questions about the Combine, the NFL Combine. By the way, if you want to contact me, terryryan.ca. That's where to do it, terryryan.ca. You want a book, you want a signed book, you want a T-shirt, you want whatever, terryryan.ca. And through terryryan.ca, a lot of you guys asked me about the Combine. So, and you're saying, what do I think of it now? Is it too much because they didn't have one when I was younger? And pretty much everybody said that. Now, first of all, yes, we did, man. We didn't, or it's not that long ago. I could see if you were talking about the 50s, but it's not like like people in my dad's era. They really used camp to get in shape. You hear those stories, but I think one. I mean, the whole world at some point. There's been a couple of revolutions of exercise, and these what's the word where it takes the zeitgeist of the moment worldwide and it comes about more than that. I guess in our lifetime, it would have been like Arnold Schwarzenegger came in because remember, like again, I'm 2 and 3 years old and stuff, but I remember things happening. And looking back as a 10-year-old, you could easily see what was still part of the fabric of the culture. And I remember looking back and going like, Olivia Newton-John, right? Flashdance. And there's another one. Let's get physical. Is that it? Yeah, no, yeah, that's maybe not, but whatever it is, and all the videos started to have, those, I don't know what you call them, leotards, for lack of a better way, and leggings and cool like workout leggings with wristbands and tight tops and Suzanne Somers on Three's Company she became richer for her role of Chrissy, was it? She became more successful, at least financially, through workout videos. And it just seemed like that was this big boost. Well, that spilled over into everything else. And, you had to start doing shit and pulling your weight off so like it was a bit primitive if you like, again, I did play a game last year with the Growlers, but I did see, and those guys are my buddies. So I see what their training regimen is. And, I'm in the room, I'm Snoopy. I was excited, but I was curious, I was in there all day. And then I wanted to compare eras, and they're the ways to get where you wanted to go, and as far as working out or methods of working out is a better way to put it, or healing and replenishing after games. Of course, those ideas and that technology has come a long way, but they were still there when I was around. They weren't there when my dad was there, right? I don't even know if they had fucking Gatorade, did they? Right, but we came off. We had cold tubs, hot tubs, all the the trainers you can imagine for various massages, everything else. We had to work out. It was just that we were all sent. I remember us all being sent the same workout program. We do it in the summer. I'd go up to Montreal for a lot of it, being young. The last month or so, always go there, and they would pay all over the world. I told you guys I'd go and work on my power skating, but as a rule, like working out. Right, they would send us, and it was largely all the same workout. There might be a little bit different for me, but like now we know I probably shouldn't be doing the same workout as Connor McDavid, right? Nothing against sorry, Saku Koivu, right? Or Connor McDavid for that matter. But Saku Koivu was a lot smaller, quicker, right? So I could work on those things. You got me to be a bigger bruising winger that goes to get my goals through, like fighting off defensemen and stuff. Well, that's going to be a little bit different training, and we should all do plyometric. And back then, you're doing all squats and fucking up our knees, and just everything was about the bench. And I remember like biceps. What do you even use a bicep for if you're a hockey player, right? But I remember just going through and I want big biceps, and it was part of the workout. And you go do 3 sets of this, 3 sets of this, 3 sets of this, 3 sets of this, get on the fucking treadmill for an hour, you're gone. You're done. Wednesday, same body part. Friday, different body part, weekends off, cardio Sunday, whatever it was. That's what it was, right? So we've come a long way, but it's not like we didn't have that. And that's the same thing. Not everybody went to a combine, but I remember what I did was, for the draft anyway, was fly to Halifax, right? And I went to Dalhousie University, and they had all this stuff. Trust me, I remember, and trying to be half prepared by like working out, doing push-ups, like we all did. It was all the same shit, like that you would not same shit, but you go to a gym the first time, they're like, do your chest one day and back another day and arms another day, right? And it was that kind of thing, right? So when we went up to do the combine, the only thing I remember at again, it's just being physically tested on my own, but all the stats went into a computer, and they combined. So it's just now that all do it at one place, and they probably do a few different things. But trust me, we had to do the wind gate, which is 45 seconds, and they put you on a bike and they drop the weight. Like, it's fucking impossible. If you were just not jacked up and like just ready to do it and knowing you were being tested, it'd be hard to go for 10 seconds. And you have to go all out. And on that one, and every year we had to do it. It's just for the combine, for any team I ever played on, professionally anyway, and junior wise, and camps and all that. In other words, I did it 30 times, but I did it once. But the Wingate, and every single fucking time, man, at the end of it, I'd be seeing spots get off, fall down, puke, whatever. It was a hard one. And then you get the VO2 max, right, where they put this. I think it's taken how much oxygen is in your blood or how much you expend per. In other words, like, I guess generally, if you're in good shape, you'll go longer. Measures something to do with the oxygen in the blood. But anyway, it puts a thing. But anyway, again, there it is. Tube in your mouth, you go on the treadmill, and each minute it goes up another incline level and up another speed. And I remember, like, if you got to like 9 or 10 minutes, it was pretty good. Now that was the only one I naturally was good at. That I could pump 15 minutes on that thing. I remember a lot of people couldn't, but this was the natural part, because in junior, when I first had to do it for Tri-Cities and stuff, yeah, my training in the summer was push-ups, sit-ups, soccer, baseball, shinny. That was it. 16, 17. Quickly realized, but I remember knowing. So I had no idea what the Wingate was, and then when I did it, I got a really good result. So that's the only thing that came natural to me. The Wingate, I suppose, with soccer and everything, because quads are big on that, and that combined with having a decent, I was okay at that. I hated it. I was okay at it. But I remember going to do the pull-ups, and I couldn't do one. Not one pull-up. Not one. Not one. I wasn't the only one. I think Jason Padone, and I've had him on here, I think he told me the same thing. Because we would all call each other. And go, I mean, like, not the first time in junior. I never had to do them. And then I went to that combine thing. I don't know. I don't know. And I worked out on different things. Whatever it was fucking disgraceful. I couldn't do one. I never did one in the gym, though, either. I was just like, chest, fucking triceps, arms, back. You would think with the back. I didn't do shoulders a lot. I don't know why. I was just young and stupid. I guess I did them a bit, but couldn't do one fucking pull-up. Sit-ups weren't much better. Took me a while to get into that. But we had to do all of it. Yeah, man. And then at World Junior Camp, the same time, like right after. So I had to do it back to back. Now, World Junior felt like more of a combine because we're all there doing it. But yeah, man, so there you go. I had to do it twice. And then Dallas, when I went back home, Dallas Stars called me like 3 days before the draft, flew me to Toronto. And I went through like most of it was like an IQ type test that, was there. People think all the questions are about sports. They're not. It was like, hey, there's a train leaving this particular city at this time, and there's a bus leaving this city at this time, and there's where will they intersect, and at what time, and all that. It was so it was a lot to it. It was a lot to it. I mean, they flew me there. I remember I flew to Toronto in the morning, just did the test at the airport in a hotel, got on the flight, flew home, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. The coolest thing. Had breakfast with my buddies, and then I went out with them after downtown. I was just fucking flew up. Just a quick little fucking up and back. I thought, man, I'm cool. I've made it. Anyway, that was a long time ago, but a fun time ago. Now there's 26 minutes, so I'm going to take off. I got some trout that's all ready. It's not ticking anymore because it's ready to get in my belly. And I'll be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR. The next 4 days, I'm working a lot, and I got a lot of shit to remember. But at the very least, you'll have it on Friday, or the next 3 days, this being Monday. I don't know who the guest's going to be because I got to fit it in. We got busy days. I'm going to have to do it either real early in the morning, real late at night, or during lunch or something. So I can't tell you who it's going to be, but I promise it's going to be somebody cool. Thanks for listening. If you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador, you want to go for a drink or a bite to eat, here's where I'd go. I'd check out Trinity Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, TJ's Pub, the Martini Bar, Greensleeves, or the Bull and Barrel. And like I said, if you're going to grab a bite to eat, Loose Tie, Blue on Water, or Wedgwood Cafe, who also do catering. If you're going to work out, strength and balance for the body and mind can be found on Rope Walk Lane at Ryan Power of Power Conditioning. Great guy, great trainer. If you want to go to Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations in St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador. One's on Torbay Road, one's on Kenmount Road. Live, laugh, lube. Pitbull Pain Relief. The pain sticks, just don't quit. Go to pitbullpainrelief.com now to see what all the fuss is about. True Hockey, take what's yours. Muggsy Jeans, I loves me Muggsy Jeans. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening, everybody. Get your marbles out of your mouth, T-Bone. Thanks for listening, everybody. I shall be back just a couple of days with more Tales with TR. Catch you guys on the rebound. You!